Ever get that, like, creepy feeling? You know when you're buying something online and it's like, "Did I just look at that? Why is this ad following me?"
Uh-huh. Yeah, targeted ads, it's like they're reading our minds, right?
Exactly. It makes you think about, like, all the ways our data is out there and our money too, right? It's all digital trackable.
And that's where something like Monero gets really interesting.
Monero, okay, so yeah, for people who maybe haven't gone down the crypto rabbit hole, what's the quick pitch?
So Monero is cryptocurrency, but imagine it like this. Cash, but online. You know, the way you can spend $1 and nobody knows where it came from or where it's going next. Monero wants to be that for the digital world.
Total privacy. I like it. But
Mhm.
how does it actually work? Because, I mean, Bitcoin, Ethereum, those are all on a public ledger, right?
Right. And that's the key difference. Monero is built from the ground up with privacy as its main thing. Not an add-on, not a side feature. Like, it is the core concept.
So walk me through it. What are these like ring signatures and stealth addresses I keep seeing everywhere? Sounds kind of secretive.
Haha. Well, the names are pretty spot on. So picture this.
Hmm.
You want to send a message, but you don't want anyone knowing it's from you. So you mix it in with a bunch of other messages and they all get jumbled up. Nobody can tell which one is yours.
Okay, so it's like hiding in plain sight, kind of.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And that's kind of what a ring signature does. It hides your transaction amongst a bunch of others, making it almost impossible to trace back.
Clever. But then how do you prove that you paid someone if it's all mixed up like that?
Well, that's where these stealth addresses come into play. It's like using a different, randomly generated account number for every single transaction.
So nobody can link those transactions back to you.
Exactly. And to prove payment, Monero has another trick up its sleeve called Ring CT. It basically masks the amount of money being sent. It's like sending a sealed envelope. You can't see what's inside, but you know something's in there.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together. And then on top of that, there's this whole dynamic block size thing. Is that as important as it sounds?
It's huge EE, actually. Imagine a highway with a fixed number of lanes, right? Now, as more and more cars get on, traffic starts to pile up. That's kind of what happens with Bitcoin. It has a fixed block size, which limits how many transactions it can process at once, and when things get crowded.
Slow transactions, high fees.
You got it. But Monero, with its dynamic block size, it's like that highway suddenly adding more lanes as needed. So more cars, more lanes, everything keeps flowing smoothly.
Okay, that makes so much sense. So it can handle like a sudden influx of users or transactions without breaking a sweat.
Exactly. And potentially lower fees too, which, let's face it, is a big deal in the crypto world.
Big time. So we've got the privacy, the scalability, but what about this idea of fungibility? I read that in the research, and it sounds kind of complicated.
It's simpler than it sounds. Basically, it means that every Monero coin is equal and interchangeable. Think of it like with Bitcoin. Let's say a specific coin was used in some shady deal, right?
Yeah.
That coin could be like blacklisted or flagged.
Mm.
But with Monero, every single coin is identical. You can't tell them apart.
It's like real cash. Nobody knows where a dollar bill has been.
Exactly. So it doesn't matter which Monero coin you have, it has the same value and history, or lack thereof, as any other.
So that's got to be really appealing for like people who need to operate under the radar, right?
Right. Think about journalists in like repressive countries or activists working on sensitive issues. They need to be able to receive funding without being tracked.
For people just trying to maintain their financial privacy in general.
Totally. In a world where everything is increasingly trackable, Monero is saying, hey, you still have a right to privacy, even in your finances.
I can see the appeal for sure, but let's be real. How do governments feel about a currency that's like basically untraceable?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. Regulations are the big unknown here. On one hand, you have the potential for misuse, right? Like with any technology, it can be used for good or not so good things.
But on the other hand, you have people who just want to control their own money and their own data.
Exactly. And that's what makes Monero so fascinating. It's like pushing the boundaries of what we consider acceptable levels of privacy in this digital age.
So where does it go from here? What do you think the future holds for Monero?
Honestly, it's a toss-up. It all comes down to whether privacy becomes a mainstream concern.
Mhm.
Like, will enough people value it enough to seek it out? Or will it stay niche, kind of like the go-to choice for like tech-savvy users and people who really prioritize anonymity? Only time will tell, really, but it'll be interesting to watch it all play out.
It will be Monero, the digital cash of the future. Maybe. We'll have to wait and see.